This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Welcome to the Supreme Resort Land v World, a podcast about Disneyland and Walt Disney World, and which is the Supreme Resort. Each episode, we will discuss and explore each resort, ride by ride, land by land, park by park, to determine which is better. I'm your host, Jimmy, and thank you for joining me on this quest to help the greater good of humanity answer this long, elusive question, which is better? Disneyland or Walt Disney World? And a very happy new year. Joining me as always is Dan.
Hi,
Dan.
I'm Dan. New year, new you, new me, new everybody. New diapers, new shoes, new Amsterdam, New York, new
Jersey,
new
There's
as an animal.
Mexico now.
New as an animal that doesn't, you don't pronounce the G unless you're a jungle cruise. I think I'm having a stroke. Goodbye.
Gazelles, canoes, etc. Also joining me is new Eric.
Yeah, new Eric here. The old Eric was discarded. New Eric has a new shirt and is
I can hear it
not
from here.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, hear that. Podmerica.
Yeah.
And our listeners overseas.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
And
buy war bonds.
Merci. Okay, so guys, I went to Universal Studios.
How dare you?
I reported that I was
Which
going
studios?
to Universal Studios in Florida. We got
Jimmy, it's called Disney Studios. I don't know why you would say such a thing.
I was planning the trip and I was asking my mom because she was going to be here. Do you want to come with us? And she's like, well, is that included in the ticket to Epcot? They're two different companies, Mom.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so Universal Studios Florida, I took my team. We got the park to park passes, rope drop, Harry Potter, Diagon Alley. Oh my God. And then Gringotts, Escape from Gringotts. We watched Ollivander and the wand chose the wizard or the little kid. And then, there's this whole show and this kid is like, do the spell for water. And he does the spell for water and water comes out. And there's all this interactive stuff. And then he's like, well, this wand chose you. And so then, go with my assistant for your options. I'm like, that kid the parents have to buy that wand. Like they don't have a choice.
I stuck around one time afterward. And by the way, the spell is Aguamenti.
That's right.
And I stuck around once and like, you don't have to buy the wand. But
I mean,
you
they
can
have to buy the wand.
They hand it to the parents. Like we can take it. It's okay. It'll be fine.
We're going tomorrow, and again as a family, and I'm hoping that my child gets selected. We'll see, but I'm curious if maybe there's a discount or whatever. They pick the kid and it's like, here you go, and you can have it for 20% off because we're making you do it effectively. But
I don't think there is. And I just want to point out, why don't they pick like somebody like me, the overweight gentleman in the back who doesn't want to be looked at.
It's ageist is what it is.
Yeah.
So then we went on the Hogwarts Express from King's Cross. We crossed through the platform to 9 3/4. We took the train. We had a little adventure. Then we went to Forbidden Journey and rode a Kuka arm ride, which was amazing. And then we went to the Three Broomsticks, and then we just toured around the rest of the park. I have not seen anything outside of Disney. In fact, perhaps Diagon Alley is better than anything Disney's ever done. It is just remarkable.
Dare you?
Remarkable. The entrance statement You just walk through a wall like you do in the books. The only criticism is they have the leaky cauldron, but it should be on the street, and you walk through the leaky cauldron to get to Diagon Alley, but the leaky cauldron's in Diagon Alley. That's my one criticism.
That's fair. Yeah.
But, because it just kind of like the Star Tours should end in Batuu, and you should walk through a concourse to get to anyway.
See, these are words I understand. Okay, keep going.
Simple things that could be done. The rest of Universal Studios, here's how I described it. It's kind of like Disney, but louder and more intense. And a lot
and the
more
children
screens.
The children are more prone to swearing and
That's true too.
being poorly shaved. I don't know what else the kids do.
It's kind of funny to see Captain America and Hulk and all these characters walking around Universal.
Cyclops, yeah.
It's kind of interesting, but theme park rights, and Marvel was crap in the 90s. So anyway, that was my trip to Universal. We're back in Orlando. I am looking at the Grand Floridian. I can see the Grand Floridian from my balcony. I can see the Beach Club, Yacht Club. I can see Animal Kingdom. This property shares a fence with the safari of Animal Kingdom. I've never been this close to Disney World and recorded a podcast.
And which Disney property are you staying in?
I'm staying in the Holiday Inn.
You traitor on so many levels.
And guess what? We drove to Orlando. We're not stepping foot on Disney property. We're going to Universal Studios.
That's it. I can't do this anymore.
Listen,
oh no!
Here it gets worse. I am holding a wand from Ollivanders. Here's the bag, listener.
I would do a spit take right now if it wouldn't destroy my computer.
I have a bag from Ollivanders with a wand. I usually prop up my microphone to be closer to my mouth with a Walt Disney biography. Currently, it's the Goblet of Fire that's holding up my microphone.
My goodness.
Guys, I don't know what's happening. My team, they're trying to convince me that I like Universal better, which I don't. Although they did suggest that that's our next podcast.
No.
Which is better, Universal Studios or Disney?
No, I'm not going to. Look, I live in San Diego, okay? It's already a drive. There we go. Which is better, SeaWorld or Universal?
Which zoo is better?
That's funny. Anyway,
San Diego v. Denver.
I digress, and that is my trip report. It was wonderful. Do we have other news, guys? It's New Year's. New Yous.
Something happened, right, with Disney. What are they doing? They're like the treehouse is opening in February. Let's see what else.
Oh yeah, Splash Mountain's closing.
They got some splashes.
Splash Mountain's closing.
Splashes
at Disney World. It's closing. At Disneyland, they're keeping it open for who knows how long.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, no, they are.
Oh yeah, Disneyland has too much closing soon.
Yeah, there's a ton closing.
Is closing January 28th. Disneyland is not.
And someone just rang the doorbell, so that you're going to hear a lot of dogs.
Uber Eats. So, all right. So, yeah, the Splash Mountain. Okay, real quick.
Oh, and Southwest exploded. Okay, sorry, Splash Mountain.
They did. So, there's a shirt. There's a fan art T-shirt that was going around a chat that you can probably find on TeePublic. And it is Brer Bear, Brer Fox, and Brer Rabbit peeing
in a log.
Looking at a log. And by the way, Dan pointed out it's the Disneyland log because it's straddled, not side by side.
Floating in midair.
Flume. Mm-hmm. And it's just presumably sitting in water on the quote unquote track, and their backs are to us because they're facing the log. And the tagline is what? Last splash? Is that what it is?
Something like splash.
The splash will rise again.
Final splash. The splash will rise again. So what was pointed out is that the log is basically blocked by Brer, Fox, Rabbit, and Bear, and the log is at the level that looks like they're peeing in the log, and so the thing called the final splash and them finishing their pee, I don't know. Anyway, check it out on TeePublic. Dan pointed out it's clearly meant for Disney World because it, last splash is 28th of January, but it's a Disneyland log.
And I don't think there's a market for that kind of thing on the West Coast. I think here it's just like, okay, cool, we get something new. Like, it's, like I don't really care. Like some people, even people who like have an opinion about, from what I can tell, at least people that have an opinion about it one way or the other, it's kind of just like, yeah, sure. It's like Russian dressing versus French. It's like,
it's the time of year that people wear actual jackets to the parks and
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense closing. You got to close at some point. A quick turnaround. I think it opens in 24 and Splash Mountain. So, I remember what I was going to say. Still don't know how you solve the land problem. It's very easy to annex into New Orleans Square in Disneyland, but I don't know how you solve that problem, but at Disney World. Anyway, I found a new podcast.
Well, then what do you do with Pooh?
Well,
I mean, that's the they both have
country.
Well, sure, but I mean, I'm just saying they both have their problems. Disney World is definitely a bigger aesthetic issue, but then at Disneyland, it's kind of that like, well, where does Pooh go? But that's kind of, I mean, you could just put him in. You could just say this tiny chunk is, or we could just say the whole thing's Critter Country. This just happens to be kind of New Orleans-ish. Who cares? Just get on the ride.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Like Matterhorn is in Tomorrowland and Fantasyland or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so I discovered a new podcast, and this has nothing to do with anything we've talked about, but it's my new obsession. It's Billy Joel A to Z.
Oh, I thought it was our podcast.
Well, no, I knew about that one. Billy Joel A to Z. I'm a huge Billy Joel fan, but the reason I bring it up is it's called Billy Joel A to Z, and they're 20-minute episodes, and they're going through every song and basically talking about the song and ranking them. And like history, trivia, how many times has he played it in concert, that kind of thing. So I'm listening to it and it's like a matter of trust. What a weird thing to start with, a matter of trust. And then it goes to a minor variation. I'm like, well, who would start with a minor variation? And then a room of their own. And then Ain't No Crime, All About Soul. I'm like, it was at All for Lena. I'm like, Billy Joel A to Z.
It took Jimmy 6 months.
Oh man. Anyway, it's a great podcast. It's quick, 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops. And it's great if you like Billy Joel.
And I'm going to start a new podcast where I talk about a Brian Eno music. And
Dan enjoys Brian Eno.
I'm going to talk about each track for as long as each track is. So get ready for 3-hour episodes.
Isn't that kind of the end of Scraping the Vault already?
I try not to make it that.
No, I love it. I think it's fascinating, and I would listen to it. It reminded me, the reason I brought it up is it reminded me of Dan Hates the Beatles, where they don't have the license to play the whole song. They can play part of it and analyze it and talk about it. So basically they play the beginning of the song at the beginning and the end of the song at the end.
We have the license. Look, if you work for any sort of Beatles organization, it's in an email somewhere. You don't need to go looking. So it's fine. You don't need to take out any more of our episodes.
Amen. All right. So there's a new show on the network. Before we get to our main topic, there's a new show on the network, and we have the Star Wars with the Bantha Milk guys. We have the Disneyland. We have the Disney News. We have the straight to video Disney sequels. The only presumably, well, we don't have Pixar represented, but now we've got Marvel. We've got Marvel represented on the Ears Up podcast network. Do we have an ad? Is it break time?
Oh, do we? I can play the ad. Yeah.
Right. Do you want to play the ad, or do you want to just go to commercial and that is the ad?
Well, this is great to talk about right now. But yeah, here we go. Your attention, please. All right. That was
if you want to have an awkward moment while you're peeing in the log at Walt Disney World with all of your Critter Country friends, which doesn't exist at Disney World, but it might, who knows, then you can just you can take a Blue Chew, chew it up, yum, yum, and then all sorts of embarrassment will happen. Now here's the end of here's call the number on your screen. Here's the end of the commercial. Goodbye.
Okay. Oh, love all those ads. Here's another. If you were hankering for more advertisements, Here's one.
In a world where superhero movies are nearly every release and Marvel has released 30 movies, how can one person possibly hope to catch all the details?
That's where PewniePod comes in. We're a monthly MCU rewatch podcast where co-hosts Ryan and David break down each MCU movie and help you catch all the details and references you might have missed. It's like watching the movies with that know-it-all from Facebook without the superiority complex. Our first episodes will be releasing on all major platforms in January of 2023. Make sure you subscribe and check out our socials. That's PewniePod, PUNYPOD, across all socials. And as always, PewniePod will return.
Mr. Stark, you become part of a bigger universe. On your left.
Puny God.
There you go. Very exciting. Puny God, Puny Pod. I get it. Very clever. That's Ryan RGH. Is that not correct?
Yes.
Yes, the
that's
creator
Ryan
of
and
Walkabout.
Right.
Yeah, the creator of Walkabout.
Producer David Sally.
Yes, our producer is now producing his own produce.
They're mixing
Produce.
it up. Two white guys talking about nerdy stuff.
Ooh,
And I'm
that's
sure that you can.
it's a new frontier for
format.
podcast.
For the
Three
podcasts,
Three
yes.
nerdy white guys. Now it's two. But they will frequently bring on hosts or guests to talk about particular films. I have requested anything but Thor: The Dark World.
And I've requested specifically that one.
There you go.
I really have.
sums up our relationship right there. Anyway, so getting to the show today, we are going to talk about an opening day attraction at both Disneyland and Magic Kingdom. That is, of course, in the title of the show that you already know, Dumbo.
What'd you call me?
Exactly. So
Is it really now? Well, Dan will get to it.
these two
Maybe.
Dumbos are going to be talking about Dumbos.
Yay!
If I'm going to be the judge, Dan is going to argue for the original at Disneyland. Eric will be arguing for the original at Magic Kingdom. And then what they are now. Anyway, if I'm the judge, because I didn't research
If you
it
are,
all.
are
If
you?
I'm the I might not be. So I'll be the judge. And if I like something that Dan says, you're going to hear this sound. Pachyderm. That's the part of the show
That's right.
Dumbo's in. Good job. And if I like something that Eric says, you're going to hear this sound.
I would like to offer you a drink, but
Okay, it's very quiet.
That's quiet.
What does it say?
That is very quiet. Sorry.
That's
That's
Danny DeVito.
it is Danny DeVito from the movie Dumbo.
From Tim Burton live action remake that everyone saw.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get started. So, Dan, why
Yes.
don't you tell us, the listener? That was not a point.
That's a point. I got a point.
Dan.
I
He
don't
said
have anything to
Dan.
Right with. Is that your intro music every time I say your name? Eric?
It should be.
You missed your cue. All right.
No. No, that's not it either.
It's all right. I wouldn't be able to do it anyway. Okay, so Dan,
This is going to be more tedious than that Billy Joel podcast if you keep this up. They got one in.
Oh, zing.
Zing. Go ahead, Dan. Tell us about.
I'm watching Dumbo in the background. Dan, you should have put on the other one.
No,
I haven't
I'm not touching
I
it.
haven't seen the live action one.
Yeah, I'm not going to give it any views.
So give us an overview of Dumbo.
Well, Dumbo. We're doing the opening statement thing that is always so weird for me. Okay.
Yes.
Dumbo is a circus elephant, and he's a lonely circus elephant, and his mother, I think, like died or something of like a heartbreak.
Weird? Why is he weird?
He looks funny, and so it's okay to make fun of him.
Because he
Which is
has
sad.
big ears.
Yeah. Yes.
Because he's different, right?
He's different.
He's a
And
nonconformist.
the lesson that we have learned from Dumbo is that you should always make fun of things that are different, because that will encourage them to learn
That's
to
a
fly.
Oh,
No, it's not.
It's not.
Wow, this judge, he's all over it.
It's not a point.
This is a Trump judge. Anyway, I don't do politics. So Dumbo, what better movie to make a ride out of? A movie so depressing that nobody watches it. So that's my opening statement, and I forgot to prepare one. So
lovely.
The end.
Well, I'm frantically trying to find a pen and something to write on for point purposes, but
I can write down points.
You want to do that? All right.
Dan has 2 for.
No, he doesn't. All right, Eric, what's your opening statement?
My opening statement. Let's see. Also, yeah, totally ready for this. Dumbo also exists at everywhere. All of the Disneys.
Eric, let me do. I do your opening statement real quick. Hey, do you like Chuck E. Cheese?
do you like playing while your parents sit and watch you play? You can do that at Dumbo in Walt Disney World. Listen now to more about Dumbo in Walt Disney World. That's because that's what we're talking about today. It's Dumbo at Walt Disney World and also the one at Disneyland.
And you said that there's a version of Dumbo in every Magic Kingdom park. Is that right?
Yeah.
Park, I should say.
Every castle park, yeah.
Yep.
Huh. I guess I didn't know that.
And Dumbo exists all around the world, even in makeshift versions wherever you can buy a quality Zamperla product or an Aero Development product, you can have a thing that goes in circles and you can sit in a thing that may or may not look like an elephant.
Don't want to spoil it.
Iconic.
Don't want to spoil it, Dan, but Dumbo at Disneyland originally was an Aero Development.
Uh-huh. Okay. I didn't get any of that stuff. I don't know.
I did it for you.
Yeah. Okay,
it was Aero. Yeah.
Yeah. My brain notes started taking a very decidedly narrative direction. So
tell us about the history of the Dumbo at Disneyland.
Okay. So Dumbo was Walt Disney's favorite movie. And I don't know if it's because it's depressing and Walt and I are kindred spirits and we like depressing things. I like to think of it that way, but hey, I think it also has something to do with the fact that it was his most financially successful film in the 40s. Wow. And if you consider what they were doing in the 40s with World
there
War
wasn't
II,
a whole lot else going on.
Right. But also there's going to be a lot of speculation here, but it's kind of educated speculation. Edulation is I think that Dumbo to him kind of maybe closed off a weird time with like the union battles and the animators strike and all that stuff. So I don't know that it's necessarily like, here's this 30-page book that I have this intense connection to. But I think it's more like for the company, this was when things kind of came together and then fell apart due to the war. But that wasn't really anyone's fault other than the Nazis. Anyway, so and if you think about we've talked about this before kind of on the show, but we haven't really dug into it. And when they were developing Disneyland, the IP that they had to use in building the park, let's take a look at the releases that were either being worked on or had been released. You have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Okay, ride. They made a ride. That's not a problem. Yeah. Oh, how dare you, Eric? We got Pinocchio, which eventually a ride. That makes sense. Okay. Fantasia. How do you make a Fantasia ride? You can make a Fantasmic show, but that's later, right? And if we're looking at like early 50s technology, the Reluctant Dragon. What even is that? Dumbo? Okay, maybe. Bambi? What would that be exactly besides a shooting arcade? And we already have one of those.
Oh.
The shooting arcade.
The Hunter.
The hero everyone Saludo's hero from Bambi.
There were a lot of shooting arcades, but mostly at Walt Disney World.
Saludos amigos, victory through air power, the
Saludos
Three
Amigos,
Caballeros.
technically, yeah, Three Caballeros they made a ride out of eventually.
Eventually, when they decided that, you know, people outside of America existed that they could do rides about. Make Mine Music. Again, what's that? Song of the South. Oopsie.
They wanted to wait for the 80s.
Yeah, we wanted to wait for the best time to make a ride out of this. Fun and Fancy Free. Again, what is that? Melody Time? I don't know. I think one of those kids is in it. So Dear to My Heart? Huh? Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Okay, already got a ride for that. Cinderella, at that time, basically Snow White, right?
Didn't come out until after the park.
1950.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So I was thinking Sleeping
Which,
Beauty,
by the way, anyone who is interested in studying the history of 20th century classical music, memorize the release years of Disney releases, and it will become very helpful because you can just make connections. Anyway, and you got Alice in Wonderland. Okay, got a ride for that. Peter Pan, got a ride for that. Lady and the Tramp. What do we do there? Sleeping Beauty was, they already knew that it was going to be made, so they made Sleeping Beauty's Castle, Sleeping Beauty's Castle.
Walkthrough eventually.
Right. So of all of those, really the only one that would be a draw, other than the ones that they already made attractions out of, is Bambi. Sorry, Dumbo.
The shooting arcade.
Oh, yes.
So and Dumbo flies, right?
Dumbo flies
because of his big ears, and he needs his feather, which is a
right,
placebo
and
or whatever.
We've seen one of those rides at every county fair, everywhere. So Walt was basically like, "Hey, let's make them elephants, and we have a Dumbo ride."
There you go.
Oddly enough, so there was. Nothing was really invented there or reinvented. It was kind of just a spinner ride with modifications. Now, Dumbo also, I think time has kind of, we've lost access to how popular Dumbo was at some point. Again, it was very successful. It won an Academy Award for music. People liked Dumbo. He was, I don't know. I'm going to make a stretch here and say like he was kind of like that generation's Winnie the Pooh in some ways. So
oh, well, no, I was going to make a comment about Winnie the Pooh, who had been around for 50 years at that point. Well,
I mean, as a Disney character.
But yes, as a Disney character. Yeah, you're right.
So, but again, I wasn't there. I don't have any like testimony of Bob Gurr saying like everybody was really into him, like he was Winnie the Pooh. I just sort of, that's the feeling I get from it. So the original plan was for them to be pink elephants, and Disney said, no, that's not a good idea, which is probably correct. So they said, okay, paint him elephant color, which is gray. And so, okay, here we go. It took me a moment to think about that. And so they shipped these elephants over to Disneyland. Like, yay, we can open our Dumbo ride with the park. And then they're like, oopsie, it's way too heavy for the mechanism that's supposed to support it.
Right.
They're 700 pounds each. Irony, because elephants.
Sure.
And so while they were trying to make a functional mechanism, the park opened, and Dumbo finally opened in August 1955.
So not opening day.
No, but in spirit, it's opening day.
Wasn't
They
there a
wanted
story-
it to be.
Wasn't there a story about some dude just sitting in the mechanism, pumping out fuel and oil and stuff to keep it running?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I remember in the Disneyland story they talk about it like it was working kind of, but it was spraying so much fuel or oil or whatever the lubricant is. It was just spraying out into the ball, and so he's pumping it out in buckets.
Was it hydraulic fluid? Was that
something like that? That makes sense. Anyway, Disneyland story. And Dan, the ride when it opened, it was the location of the ride is the courtyard of the castle. Right when you walk in, like where the carousel is now. No, I'm sorry.
No.
Where was it?
Okay, here we go. So just to cross this off on my brain notes, they originally planned to build an entire land around Dumbo with a circus and everything. They tried, so that's why Casey Jr. is like right there.
Right.
They tried a semi-permanent circus, but that was kind of a mess because carnies are like messes as people. I can say that because I'm a substitute teacher, and substitute teachers are the carnies of education. So
That's
there we go.
very well put.
So the original location, and this is this is one of the rabbit holes I went down a little bit just because it's so weird if you actually think about this. The original location, think about where the Red Rose Tavern is now. That's
used to be
Village House.
Yes.
Right. And also think about, like, if you think about where the engine parks for its loading, if you like, this is very abstract, but if you that would be like, if you're looking right at Dumbo, that would be like the 12 o'clock of the circle of Dumbo. Mm-hmm. Again, very specific and weird.
So
now, this is especially
the engine of Casey Jr.
Right.
Okay.
So it's not exact. It's like, it's kind of skewed. I had other notes, but what makes this especially weird to think about is that there was no Big Thunder Trail,
right?
Which makes Skyway seem like essential at that point because it's just a dead end.
Sure.
There was no other Dumbo, meaning that, like, when we think about this, our brains break a little bit because we're thinking about where Dumbo is now. And it's like, wait, there's no room for it, but that wasn't there. Right. And then there was no Pinocchio, but Pinocchio, the building that houses Pinocchio now was a show that I forgot to write down the name of.
And that was added in the 1983 Tony Baxter edition. It was Pinocchio, correct?
Pinocchio, yes. So
I just want to acknowledge, and I think Eric maybe acknowledged it before, Dan has a television behind him, and he is currently playing the 41 animated feature Dumbo.
I'm
watching it very heavily.
I can turn it off if you want.
No, it's fine. It's good for context. It's sad to say 64 minutes long, and this podcast will be going when the movie's over. Go ahead.
Hey, Google, play Perry on Disney Plus.
Oh
no. The Better Bambi.
It's not available.
It's not Valentine's Day, Dan.
Sorry. So if we take a moment to think about Old Fanty, there used to be a Skull Rock, and people have probably seen pictures of it.
Ship.
Yeah,
right. And the Chicken of the Sea pirate ship, and it's kind of, there's not a ton of coverage here, but what I found is that the Skull Rock is kind of where, you know how there's that like
currently is, right?
Well, yeah, but like to give you more of a sense of space, where Monstro is for Storybook Land, that chunk of rock that Monstro comes out of, that was essentially Skull Rock.
Okay.
And then in front of that, where Dumbo is now, was the Chicken of the Sea pirate ship restaurant.
Got it.
So, but that was, I think it was more in, and there was like seating around the back end of that. So if you think it through, it becomes more and more insane because the carousel. So you walk in, front courtyard, carousel. It's basically where it is now. And then just behind it, but like shifted over slightly near Peter Pan, was the teacups. So
lots of spinning, not
a lot of walking, because think about this is the space there. You have walk in, carousel, like narrow corridor, and then spinny thing, pirate ship. It was a mess. So the 1983 New Fanty, I think, was very essential, not just because it made it like prettier and look better, but I'm pretty sure it came from, again, lots of speculation in this. It came from them looking at all of it and going like, hey, what if we actually thought it through?
Yeah. I'm looking at
had some plan.
And listener, you can Google this. You walk into the courtyard, there's a circle. It's the carousel. Directly behind it is the Mad Tea Party. And then to your left is Dumbo. So you've got these 3 circles, all just one after the other.
Yeah. And see, for me, I always thought like, well, one day they decided we're going to theme it up and make it look nicer, which they did. But having actually looked at it, it was just like, oh, this was probably the current Tomorrowland problem times a bajillion in terms of like walking around. And it just didn't make any sense. Sort of like Disney World's Fantasyland. Anyway, so
Whoa.
it originally had 10 Dumbos that would spin around a mechanism, and Timothy the Mouse is on top of a mirror ball holding a whip. And that was never a problem to have. Yeah. So originally, the Dumbos had hinged ears that would flap, but it never worked. So the reason I'm laughing is it's so fun for me to imagine what the mechanical sounds would have been as you're riding around.
Yeah. A 50s mechanism just constantly moving on the thing that is also moving.
Another fun thing that reminds me, Dan, when we watch the Great Moments of Mr. Lincoln, you like to make the hydraulic noises.
Yeah, it ruins the show for everybody.
It's fun.
There was originally no water feature, which there is now, and I'll get into that. Eventually, the Dumbos were replaced with no flappy ears. It just delights me to think about what they would sound like.
Yeah, totally.
And if Walt Disney World could get their act together, they would have fixed that. Later,
so rude.
Look,
all the rude.
It's that park's one to win, okay, or one to lose rather. So later, a certain Imagineer who loved to complicate things, named Tony Baxter, came along, and he toyed with the idea of a Dumbo circus land, which would have included a balloon ride. He loved his balloons, which would have taken off. I don't have the specific information of where it would leave Fantasyland, but it would have landed at the theater that is currently not Videopolis and occasionally has the Legend of the Lion King, which, if you think about it, is like a very, very small trip. And the actual land was going to be where Toontown is now. And that was not just a circus thing, but it was going to be home for characters that didn't necessarily fit into like a castle-y sort of environment of, Fantasyland. So
like a Critter Country, if you will.
Yeah, it's a good like And the Rest kind of place. So proposed attraction
circus, for example.
Yes. Well, and if you think about it, Toontown actually kind of became that. And then with Critter Country, we kind of have both. We have 2 outlets for 2 different And the Rest kind of characters, namely Pooh. He's a problem. So his proposal was Casey Jr. gets moved because, again, he likes to complicate things. We're going to have Pinocchio and a Mickey Mouse dark ride themed to old-timey adventures. Put a pin in that one. I think you both know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
And there was also going to be...
I can't wait.
There's also going to be a character circus dark ride with different acts and different rings. And again, heavy speculation, but based on the time period and what was being developed, I don't have any notes saying that this was the case, but I very much suspect, based on the Imagineer doing this and the format of the thing, I think this was going to be like a Journey into Imagination situation. Where you go and you get to one of those theaters and you move with the theater.
Oh, okay.
That would have the animatronic shows. Again, total speculation there, but it kind of makes a lot of sense to me because that's what Tony Baxter was into. He likes his balloons. He likes his rotating theaters.
And an homage to Walt, who loved his circus.
Exactly. Which, by the way, kids love the circus now, right? No, they do not. They do not care about the circus.
I don't think they have it anymore.
I mean, wine moms love Cirque du Soleil, but that's a completely different thing.
Bendy French people.
Yes.
French Canadian people. Come on.
Yes, any French Canadians. So this was in 1976 that Tony Baxter was thinking of doing all this stuff. And a certain thing happened in 1977 that changed a lot of people's ideas about what kind of themed entertainment should be happening. That thing was Space Mountain and Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Star Wars.
Oh,
yeah, that's right.
okay.
77. I was
Right.
really racking my brain. I'm like, oil embargo? I don't know.
So yes, the oil embargo made children everywhere not want to be interested in elephants. So all of a sudden, the sea change happens. Again, lots of speculation, but we can look at the patterns. And I don't think that reviving Walt's old circus idea was necessarily Card Walker's focus at this point, especially because Space Mountain, okay, let's get more space stuff. Star Wars, okay, let's really get more space stuff. Card Walker's out in 1980. You got New Fanty in 1983, and then you get your Pinocchio. Ron Miller is there until 1984. You got Videopolis right around 1985-ish, 4-3, somewhere around there.
And he wanted something fast, and they built it in like 9 months. We have to do a Videopolis episode at some point.
So all of a sudden, the land that was going to be Tony Baxter's landing spot for his precious balloons, that's out of play. And the entire company is thinking about, like, these parks need to be about teenagers. Captain EO, Star Wars, and then Roger Rabbit comes in 1988, and that becomes our sort of catch-all and the rest.
Sure, yeah.
You know, because then we can have Toontown. Thoughts? I needed to get a drink. I need water. Hold on, there's more, but
he's still going.
That's good. That's good. So while you're getting a drink, I'm going to say that I think it's really fascinating that the Walt Disney Company has had a handful of CEOs over 100 years. Walt Disney, and then Card Walker, or it was Roy. Sorry, Roy. Then Card Walker, then Ron Miller, then Eisner, and then Iger, and then I should have researched the shortest.
JPEG.
No, the shortest living president, and say he was that president of CEOs. Chapek, and then Iger again. So that's only 7 people in the history of the company. That's so surprising to have 7 CEOs, and one of them because of death. Right. And then, that's remarkable for 100 years. They'll have 7 people running that company.
Oh, absolutely.
And anyway.
And that's our company.
Now he's done drinking water at the end.
And that's what happens. So New Fanty comes along. You get a new mechanism that's more clockwork-like, meaning that they accentuated the inner workings of it to be kind of a thematic thing. There's bigger gears. The water feature with fountains was added. Storks, little hanging stork, dangly ornament things were added on top.
Right, Timothy, how babies get delivered. Yes,
exactly. Timothy, yes, the stork comes and has sex with your wife.
Oh no! Is that what happens?
Yes.
Is that why I don't have any children?
You live in the mountains, Eric. They can't make it up there.
We don't have any storks up here. All we have is hawks and vultures, and
they eat the storks on the way. So
and jets.
Yeah, the stork shows up.
Uh-oh. It's too early.
And as Dan's giggling away, I'm just thinking of the song Jet by Dan's favorite band.
The stork shows
Second
up,
favorite band.
takes a sperm sample from the dad, has sex with the mom, and then it artificially inseminates them.
Wow.
And that's kids.
Where's the scientician spotlight music? Hang on.
That's the bird and birds and the bees is the stork.
We lost Dan.
Just picture the stork taking his vest off, because of course it's the stork from like Vlasic or whatever.
He's got a
takes his hat off. Like, oh, rough day at the Vlasic factory. Making all those pickles.
Wow. And then he goes to a man's pickle and All right.
You know what to do. Get over this. But here's a jar. Okay.
jeez.
Anyway.
Oh, no.
So, and also Timothy is holding a magic feather on top of a hot air balloon because Tony Baxter loves balloons.
So now
Instead of a
Dumbo-
whip, you mean?
So Dumbo was effectively replaced Mad Tea Party, effectively, spatially.
Well, actually, they blowed up. This is a missing thing, but I can probably do this off the dome. They blowed up Skull Rock,
Right.
and they sunk
Tried to move the
pirate
pirate
ship.
ship, but it fell apart.
Yeah. And then they, and that's where Dumbo went.
And parts of the pirate ship, as we discussed earlier, can be found in the queue of Peter Pan.
That is correct. Yes, I remember saying those words.
Yep.
That was me, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure.
I remember
That's
them going
probably
in
me.
my ear holes. So
Okay. It was me. Let's just say it was me. So that was great. Everyone thought it was wonderful. And then there was an accident in the early 90s where Dumbo just fell off and was dangling.
Oh, no.
Let's see. We don't know. That's not truth in advertising, is it? And also one of the arms just kind of fell down. Two separate accidents. No one
Did
was
their ears
seriously
start
injured.
flapping then?
That would have been great. And little Tweety birds going around their head. So it was closed until a fix could be found. And Eisner was like, hey, we have this one that we're going to put into Paris. Paris isn't opening for a while. You could just install this and we'll build a new one for Paris. So they did.
So
and
the
that
Dumbos at Disneyland speak French?
Yes, they do.
Wow.
And that improved the capacity from 10 Dumbos, or Jimmy, what's 10 in French?
10.
10. And what's the elephant? Let's see.
Papillon.
Hey,
I don't know.
hey, Google. How do you say elephant in French?
In French, that's l'éléphant. Anything else you want me to translate?
L'éléphant.
No.
L'éléphant.
Okay.
Nothing else to translate today. Thank you.
Des l'éléphants
Des
to
éléphants.
16. What's a 16 in French?
Soixante. No, wait,
Soixante.
that's 60. Go ahead. Keep going.
Soixante, but not the 60 kind, the 16 kind of Soissons. L'éléphant.
15, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Bonbon au chocolat. 16.
And then
L'éléphant.
18, 19, and 20.
You know, a lot of people have reported that they learn their foreign languages from this podcast. So in 2005, one of the original Dumbos was donated to the Smithsonian, which makes it important.
And I think
And
John Stamos has one of them too.
I wouldn't surprise me.
An elephant.
And in 2018, the queue was given shade, and you're going to be hearing significantly less of my voice until towards the end.
Wonderful. Well, we do have to get to the queue, which I think maybe you did a spoiler for. But Eric, would you like to share? Thank you, Dan, for that lovely report.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
And potential speculation on Tony Baxter's love of balloons.
I
It's a
don't
trend.
I don't have much on Tony Baxter and his love of balloons. What I do have is a somewhat briefer history of Dumbo, the flying elephant at Walt Disney World.
Famously, both of these attractions have been relocated.
Yes,
in their
both have
lifespan.
moved. Now, also not famously, because people don't know this that well, is that Dumbo the Flying Elephant actually opened on opening day at Walt Disney World.
Oh, look at me.
We were ready. We had one thing ready.
We understood how to weigh things and do things with physics and stuff. We had
And then
computers.
eventually, the stork got busier and multiplied
Right.
to two Dumbos, but I don't want to spoil it. Go
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, 1971, when the Magic Kingdom opened, it did include a Dumbo the Flying Elephants attraction. Much like Disneyland at the time, it had 10 elephants for a whopping 12 people that could ride it per day. Really, really low capacity.
12 per day. That's
an embellishment. Yeah. 12 people. It was a very long ride
at a time.
Yeah. But yes, for some reason, when the ride originally opened, it didn't have the disco ball with Timothy on top in the center. And it didn't, the elephants were hatless. They had the Dumbos had no hats, which was
even on the Sabbath.
Yes, every Sabbath, people would come by and remark about the lack of hats on Dumbo.
Put a hat on that elephant.
Well, you got to remember that Dumbo was famously flew indoors in the circus, and you don't wear hats indoors.
Oh, goodness,
that's true.
No,
that's true.
Not even in the 70s. That was still a faux pas, a massive faux pas. My grandmother taught me that. But for some reason, it's not completely clear when, but by 1972, the elephants had the same sculpt as Disneyland, so they had hats again. And the disco ball and Timothy were added into the center of the attraction. The original location of the attraction was back, basically a little off center, but still back behind the carousel in the courtyard of the main Fantasyland area. It was between 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and the shops and restaurant off to the left.
Right.
So yeah, it was right there in the center of Old Fanty. Dan, you've been calling out old and new Fanty for a while, but we need to make sure our listeners understand Fantasyland. We have new listeners since we've decided to call things new and old Fanty.
That's true. I'm sorry to confuse people about the park that they are listening to a podcast.
Right. Yes. But I do love the Fanty call out. So yeah, we're back to Fanty. That attraction stayed around for quite some time. In 1983, a replica was made and was intended to replace the original at Walt Disney World, but was instead sent to Tokyo Disneyland, which was being made at the time. So a very similar situation with the Paris,
right? So that
situation
doesn't understand Japanese.
There you go. Yeah, made for Florida. Yeah, they don't know like the Floridians famously know no Japanese language comprehension. We'll be clear about
Too
that.
Too easy. I'm not doing that.
No, not going to edit any of that. 1993.
Everyone, audience, I just want to take a moment. Just write your own joke. You know the show. Just yeah. Okay.
There we go. Yeah. 19.
Yep.
Okay. Moment is over. 1993. They finally updated to a new mechanism. They added the 16 elephants that we had in Disneyland as well. They didn't include a water feature. The fountain that was so prominent in the Disneyland version, potentially because there were utilidors underneath. You'd think that would make it easier to run pipes to that area, but there were no pipes running to the area with water, so they didn't drop down that spot. Maybe that's it. It's more they didn't have space underneath it because they'd have to go into the utilidor. Maybe that's it. I saw something about utilidors being involved, but anyway, no water feature. Timothy was also changed at the time to no longer hold a whip, but a feather, Dumbo's famous feather. And then several years later, we had the announcement of at D23, where new Fanty was announced. So that was 2009 at the D23 Expo in Anaheim. Walt Disney World Parks and Resorts Chairman Jay Razzulo announced at the expo that they were going to double the size of Fantasyland and make the Florida area more focused on meeting princesses in their own environment. They were going
Actually, sorry, Eric. Just to the new listener, I just want to clarify: D23 is an event that happens every year.
Fan event
That used to show
Not every year.
That where they used to show new and innovative things that were going to be happening for the Walt Disney Company.
That's what they used to do at this.
That's what they used to do. Yes.
and then the last time we just had a bunch of people talking.
Then
and
it was
paying
just
for tickets.
Yeah, it was just Josh
they're getting a
Jamal.
new animatronic at the Haunted Mansion ride.
Yeah,
which by the way should be released sometime around August, which is when that movie comes out of the same name. So it would make sense that they would turn on that animatronic around opening, because there is a Hatbox Ghost in the movie played by Jared Leto.
Will the new Hatbox Ghost look more like Jared Leto than the original?
God.
Because
oh my God, can you imagine?
Oh man,
He kind of already looks plenty like the Hatbox Ghost if you think about it. I mean, in a certain sense, you know,
he has teeth,
weird
eyes.
buggy eyes.
Yeah,
probably like has a cold or something. I don't know.
But it does make sense that they would turn on that robot around the time they turn on the movie.
That's the only reason I'm going to Haunted Mansion anyway, is because of the movie.
Jared Leto.
And Jared Leto. And my love of Jared Leto and the bands that he has or has not been in.
And his cult.
Okay.
I love bands that he hasn't been in.
That's right.
Like the Beatles.
Oh, they're the best.
Billy Joel.
Yeah, also one of the best.
All right, so that's the history of Dumbo.
No, we're not done. We're not quite done yet.
And Roxy music. Yes, there, I got one in.
More princesses in New Fanty, because the Princess IP was very successful at that time. That was when we really started to see. That big push, and they thought, well, we'll have Dumbo and we'll have a little circus themed area in New Fanty, but it's a very small portion. Several months later, on January 1st, 2010, Tom Staggs, the former savior, one of the people that we all thought was going to be the CEO,
right.
Stom Taggs replaced Jay Rezolo on January 1st, 2010, and said, you know what? I have 3 boys, and you know what they don't care about? Princesses. Let's not make Fantasyland into a princess place. And basically came in and said, you need to change up your plans. And then the Imagineers created a larger storybook circus that we have now.
Because kids currently love the circus.
They love the circus. Well, they love the circus more than they love Pixie Hollow, which would have gone in there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, just a tangent. There was a time when, you know, Disney kind of does identifiers like your welcome home. You know, if we go to Vacation Club, it's welcome home. Everybody gets a welcome home. And all little boys were pirates. Hey, pirate. And then all little girls were princesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was all the time, which I think would be problematic these days.
Yes.
Possibly.
But yeah, it's interesting that they had that sort of identifier for everyone. And like, I just recently, I don't know if this is true in your neck of the woods, but every time I go to McDonald's, which is more often than I'd care to admit, they always say, see you tomorrow. And I think that's kind of an interesting way of doing it. It's like, see you tomorrow. Like, you know, it's so familiar, right? And
do you think they're trying to trick people into like supersizing themselves?
Well, I think what it is it's sort of putting it in your mind, you know, because I go more often now and they say, see you tomorrow every time. It doesn't matter who's taking my money. So maybe that's just local to my area, but I thought that was an interesting welcome home.
While we're on this, and this is going to sound like I'm one of those awful people, and I want to be very clear that I am extremely supportive of people being identified the way that they feel that they should be identified.
Sure.
However, having said that, them calling everyone friends at Disneyland is
Friends is the
very
new
irritating. It's very irritating.
But that's an identifier, right? That's kind
Yes.
of what I'm saying is, hello, friend. Hey, friends.
It's the most disingenuous way to do what they're trying to do, though. It's like, hi, friends. It's like, okay, that sounds like sarcasm.
Yeah, I had a boss who would she'd walk into the room and say, oh, hey, friends. How's everybody doing today, friends?
Yeah,
and
that would drive me nuts. But
yeah,
I don't mind it at Disney parks because, Dan, again, I think I alluded to it a minute ago, you can't anger anyone. Like, you can say ladies and gentlemen, but what if I'm neither? You know?
Yeah,
what I mean?
no. Well, yeah, and I think just to reword what you were saying, and you, it's not fair to assume everyone's gender as a group, and I think again, I completely support the spirit of what they're trying to do.
Right.
They need to find a new word. Friends is not working.
Yeah, friends isn't great. I have heard them say to kids, they still say princess and Jedi now.
Oh, Jedi.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the new pirate, right?
Which is odd because there were lady Jedis.
Ooh, that's a good point.
We had a whole trilogy about a lady Jedi.
We did, in fact.
But she was paid less. So no, anyway.
Okay. Probably true.
Wow. So instead of Pixie Hollow, we got Storybook Circus, and instead of the Princess Village with a bunch of themed cottages themed to each princess,
Right.
we got the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
And we did get Princess Fairy Tale Hall, where you can meet and greet with the princesses. And Belle did, in fact, get her little village and her cottage, where you do the story tales with Belle.
Which I should do someday. I hear that's good.
It's good. It is good. I don't think they've had it since 2020, and I don't think it's come back. But it eventually will come back.
They haven't hired a Belle since then.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, so just a quick question. Is Storybook Circus its own land, or is it a part of Fantasyland?
It is a part of Fantasyland. Okay. Yes.
And it's
a part of New Fantasy.
To be Mickey's Toontown Fair.
Correct. And Mickey's Birthday Land.
And the only thing that remains from Birthday Land Toontown Fair is Goofy's Goofy's Barnstormer. Which was called then something else. Wasn't it? Didn't they change its name? There was an episode about it. Go back and listen if you're interested. But that's the only thing
I talked about
it remains. And maybe a big top tent. Did that stay, or is that new?
There's a store that is in the shape of a big top. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the store that sells plush. They have Pete's
fudge and stuff too.
Yeah, they have candy back there.
Do they still have the Casey Jr. fountains of dysentery?
Do. Yeah, they do. It's sort of a centerpiece on the turntable. The train station is in fact it's themed to be a train station housing. What do they call those? The roundhouse?
Roundhouse.
And trains. Thomas the
also
Train
in karate.
Sure, it's like a kick. But anyway, Casey's still there, so you still have the Casey tie-in. So they both have a Casey tie-in. One's got a ride next to it. The other one's got a dysentery fountain.
Whoa. Yeah. Wait until the episode of Casey Jr. versus Casey Jr.
Oh my God. Painstaking amounts of information about this fountain.
I think I can win that one.
Yeah. I can win that episode in 4 hours. I can do it in 3.
Just wait till the president's.
Here's what I love. Oh God. We gotta do that.
I mentioned the president's on Ears Up, and Jason gave me the dirtiest look.
No, we're doing it. We're doing it.
It's going to be on March Madness, called something else, but it will have to do with the Hall of Presidents. That is all I will say.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway,
you can tell by everyone's reaction whose idea this was.
We did it together, Dan.
Yes, so you could probably put together in your own head what we're doing.
But this will be a precursor to Hall of Presidents v. Great Moments of Mr. Lincoln. And the winner of the bracket may very well be the only president we argue against with Great Moments of Mr. Lincoln. Only time will tell.
Fingers
cameo gonna
crossed,
be?
Willard Fillmore.
All right, here's what I want to say.
Wait.
Oh,
we got
I'm not
to
done.
figure out what the cameo
well,
will
I
be.
still have something to say.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Because there are two Dumbos, both of them tied in with a Casey Jr., famously from the 64-minute film.
Mhm.
But one has an attraction with kinetic energy, a fun ride for everyone versus a fountain. I'm going to give Disneyland a point.
I haven't finished my history.
Keep going. That was unrelated to anything.
Oh,
your history.
Okay. So there we go. Writing down Disneyland point. Okay. All right. History. In 2012, January 8th, Dumbo closed. The original location of Dumbo closed and was moved over. The I guess I can't say the original. It was a new mechanism. So it had they took the original 16 elephants that go counterclockwise and they moved it over to this new area in Fantasyland called Storybook Circus. On March 12th, they had a soft opening of that portion of Storybook Circus, and they had already created the second and the world's only clockwise spinning Dumbo. That's the one on the left. The one on the right is the 1993 16 elephant version that goes counterclockwise. 2012 left hand. As you look at the ride, it goes clockwise, and that's the newer one. They added the water features and added in that new queue that we'll talk about. And that opened up in 2012, and it has remained there since.
So I'm going to maybe say something that would be counterintuitive to you guys.
Oh, no.
But for me, having the attraction be Dumbo, yeah, there's more than one. I get it. But having a second set of Dumbo feels like breaking theme to me. Like it's like there's, you know what I mean? It just feels, I don't know why. And the only thing I will say about it is the reason there are two at Disney World is because they have the space. I think because it's such a popular attraction with famously very long wait times, which we'll get to with the queues. I'm not going to award a point, but I don't like that there are two sets of Dumbo. I get that it helps capacity, but I also get that if there was space at Disneyland, they would have done it there too. And back to the size argument, I don't think it's fair.
And I think
to
it's
give it a point for more.
I agree with it being kinetically weird, or aesthetic, thematically weird too.
Yeah.
It's like this is supposed to be special.
It's just I'm not going to give it a point for having to increased capacity, maybe increased capacity in one versus the other. But I think it's a size thing, and I don't think it's fair to give it a point for capacity.
Well,
Plus,
we've already established that several years ago that size shouldn't matter.
In this case, it does not specifically.
Okay.
So, well, and we'll get to the demand or wait time thing later because there's
2 or
some
3
arguments
hours from
there.
now.
Right.
All right. So is that it for the history?
That's it for my history.
All right. So currently, the only points awarded is the one for the attraction associated with the Dumbo, making it a little bit better of a Dumbo circus sort of vibe, right? So, Dan, let's talk about the queue. This is where it takes a turn.
Maybe. I mean, there are ways to look at it. And by the way, I put the captions on Dumbo for you too.
Oh, thank you so much. Like I can see that far.
Did you rewind?
I did a little bit just to see if the captions were working.
Okay.
Okay. Buckle in. Here we go.
That was me buckling.
The queue is covered. Switchbacks.
Okay.
There are posters for circus things. And in the center of the attraction's area is an authentic Gavioli band organ that was built in 1915.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So as you are waiting for this very delightful, very popular ride that all the kids care very much about, you get to listen to the sounds of a Gavioli band organ built in 1915. We all know how I love my band organs almost as much as Tony Baxter loves his balloons.
I believe in the Fantasyland episode, that band organ thing came up a lot.
Certainly did. And you get to take in the sights, the sounds, the smells of Fantasyland. That means that you get to see, occasionally a Pearly band on the carousel. You get to see an actual Disneyland marching band. Occasionally they make their way through there. You get to take in the ambience and the rich tapestry that is Disneyland, specifically Disneyland's Fantasyland, which is glorious and wonderful, unlike the giant festering wound that is Fantasyland at the Magic Kingdom.
I'll give you a point for the organ. Okay. I like that a lot. I like the authenticity of it. I enjoy the sounds of it. And I do appreciate what you're saying as far as the sort of, again, I'll say it, the kinetic energy of that area of the park. You've got the carousel, you got Casey Jr., you got Dumbo, you got the music, you got Storybook over there, you can see the tea party too.
Sometimes, yes.
There's a lot going on, and it is covered, but I that's not unique to Disneyland, so I don't think I'm going to award that a point.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the point there is that it wasn't always covered, which is it's an improvement.
Oh, gosh.
No, I'm not fishing for points there, but
nothing was covered in Fantasyland before 1983.
Right, and I think also the whole area is more of like a suggestion of circus things rather than you're in the circus now. Buy some merch. Right. So
have we done those lands yet?
No,
sorry. But we should do now because Storybook Circus is part of Fantasyland, but it should have been Storybook Circus v Toontown, but they're not. It
could
that's
be
the one.
Because it's an extension of Fantasyland, but it does not feel like Fantasyland.
True.
Yeah. No,
it is a very separate thing. You walk past posters, and there's a
really
gate.
Cool. I don't remember talking about them on the show, but the way they were created and they were repurposed. They were actually repurposed on purpose, where you can actually see what the sign used to say on the back of it. The Storybook Land sign, or the Storybook Circus sign. There's a lot of really cool facts about that. I'll take that one, but
anyway, maybe we
should have done that though before they changed. Because Toontown's going to be more of a functional land when they reopen it.
Well, that's true, but that's not Toontown's
Storybook
fault.
Circus has a few
Storybook Land's fault.
It has a few rides in it. It's got
we've done
2 attractions.
Ride.
It's got a few stores. It's got candy
and a train,
bathroom, train stop.
Anyway, all right. Well, more for later. It's a conversation for another time. And Dan, you did the cue.
Yes.
For Dumbo, you got a point for Oregon, and I'm rolling in the fact that all the kinetic energy while you're walking back and forth.
Right.
Eric, let's talk about the queue of Dumbo at Storybook Circus.
By the way, is this where we talk about the differences in wait times, or is that a later thing?
You know what? Yes, it's a later thing. I have it on my brain notes to ask. But I just for S's and G's. I just looked at the wait times at Disney World. It is 40 minutes. The wait time at Disneyland is 40 minutes.
That would fit for this time of day, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, they're 3 hours apart, obviously. And so that's a moment in time. But I thought that was interesting based on the double capacity. But Eric, what is happening at the Dumbo in Storybook Circus? And before I let you speak, one is Fast Pass, one is non-Fast Pass. Is that correct?
Oh, Disneyland doesn't have Genie Plus. That's right. Genie Plus is allowed at Walt Disney World.
Yeah, and one of them is historically dedicated to Genie Plus. The other one is standby only.
And that would be Disney. Oh,
Disney
you
World.
mean the specific?
No, the clockwise one is Genie Plus or whatever, and the counterclockwise is OG. But anyway, it doesn't
Correct.
matter. So you get in the queue. What happens?
Well, you enter the covered. Well, before you even get to the covered from the sun queue, you walk past a sign that reads Dumbo the Flying Elephant that has Timothy Mouse on the top of it, because that's the original Timothy Mouse from the attraction that was installed sometime in the early 70s. He's still there, beckoning you in. He's not on the main attraction these days, but he is there on top of the sign. You walk
can't
past
have two Timothys. I don't like it. Anyway.
Yeah, there you go. You can't. And they get around that by not having two Timothys. There you go. You walk past that sign, you head into a covered area with some switchbacks, and you then head into a large circus tent.
Yes.
Where,
and what happens in this large circus tent?
Oh, I suppose a few things could happen. You could just keep going into the line and then emerge into the ride that is out there. But you could also get a restaurant-style pager that can alert you of a time when you can come back into the line. The pager is a little different than your standard Outback or Applebee's pager. It has a ticket to Dumbo written on it in a circus-style font.
Not a coaster. It's more one of those flat stick ones.
Yeah, it's the stick ones, yeah. And inside the tent is very well themed. It is it's themed like a circus, so you can have your children live out their fantasy of of working in a circus in the big top itself. In the center of the large tent,
because children love the circus.
Children love the circus. Children famously love the circus. I'll just keep saying
when they
famously.
had one, the kids liked it.
Well, I suppose they did. Yeah, many years they did love circuses. And we're back to the pink elephants on the movie in the background, but I'll try not to look at it too much. Yeah. So the main thought here is that your children can play. And you can sit inside an air-conditioned room while the line goes on without you.
Eric, I'd like you to repeat that statement, please.
You can go, instead of waiting in a line in the heat, you can go inside an air-conditioned tent, and your children can play in air conditioning, and you as a parent can sit and watch them play.
I mean, do you rest your case at this point?
You can also charge your phone while you're watching them play. Oh yeah.
So from what I understand, there's no outlets.
No, they have phone chargers.
Oh, okay.
So
they don't. I don't think they have outlets, but there's a phone charging station in the tent.
I just, for the listener and for the two prosecutors here, I did not have any thoughts about this going into this recording. I knew about it, but I had no thoughts about any of this. I wasn't paying attention. I'm on vacation. I'm in Florida. We were sitting by the pool. I had a cocktail in a glass with ice. And so I just came into this kind of blind, but
think it through. It sounds fun. It's on paper. It sounds great.
Listen, in practical use, it is great. I have done it. I have kids. It is fantastic. Instead of waiting in line, I am sitting down and my kids are burning energy while I'm charging my phone in air conditioning. You cannot beat that. I don't give it points for capacity. I don't give it points for having two. I give it points for that feature alone, and I give it 3 points.
I would like to offer you a drink, but
hey, we can hear it.
Yeah, I made it louder.
So this is an experience that literally, at least in practice, reverses the Walt Disney vision of this is a place where parents and children can have fun together.
You can have fun with them.
You can have fun with
but
them.
will you really?
I'll have more fun because I'm not with them. Let's put it that way. No, Dan, listen. I have no preconceived notions about it, but if I were to tell you, and let's just take emotion out of this, if I were to give you an attraction, say you have
I have no emotion
things,
about the stupid ride.
Okay, good. I don't either, by the way. So I'm going to tell you about these two attractions. They're spinner rides. They're basic. Their queues are switchbacks. They're both covered. It's the same ride. But in one version, instead of walking back and forth for 40 minutes, you can sit down for 40 minutes and be air conditioned. You, as a non-parent, would appreciate that.
No, but okay, I get what you're saying, but I'm still stuck in this environment with thousands of screaming toddlers and families that are starting to turn on each other passive aggressively. Whereas
1,000 of toddlers, but yeah, I get your point. Yeah.
Whereas at Disneyland, here we go. Here's something I wrote last night.
Dan, keep in mind that an elephant behind you right now is flossing itself with lightning.
Okay, I wrote this last night. I don't know how intoxicated I was at the time, but here we go. I've not read this since. There is no actual need for them to have built a Chuck E. Cheese at Disneyland. Sure, the work around Walt Disney World is clever, and I don't think any of our Walt Disney World audience would forgive us if we didn't say it was better. But at Disneyland, the elements and the ability to plan ahead and navigate with a reasonable wait time makes it so that you do not have to sit in a Chuck E. Cheese with air conditioning, but also with thousands of screaming toddlers and families experiencing breaking point. Because a 60-minute wait in that environment means that you are in that environment for 60 minutes. Yes, it's more pleasant than standing in the Central Florida heat, but it is still unpleasant. Whereas at Disneyland, you can stand in the shade, taking in the sights and sounds in the middle of Fantasyland. There's occasionally a pearly band. I can talk about that. If you plan it right, you can hit it at a 20-minute wait or less before 11 and after 5. And besides, if you're doing any of the rides in Fantasyland that aren't Pan or Snow White's Magical Bedwetting Wish Time, you can do all of these after hitting the cool rides like Pirates, Indy, Space, and if you're a real sucker, Rise. And they are all centrally located, so you can just bounce around until the wait times start piling up and bounce the hell out of Fantasyland for the rest of the day.
That is also true for Florida. All those things are also true.
Absolutely.
I can wait short waits in the morning or the afternoon. So I get your argument. I don't disagree with you. And for the most part, I couldn't have said it better myself. At this point, no.
It's the same thing.
At this point, it is the exact same thing. I didn't give it credit for having to. I don't think that's smart. I don't think it's whatever. The only difference is that I can sit. And you're exaggerating, obviously, but in the various times that I've done this, you don't have to sit that long. You can sit and wait till it's your turn. Historically, it's not been crowded. It's not loud. It's not swarming with children. It's pretty sparse, and there's so much seating that you don't have to be by anybody. It's like a circus. It's tiered. It's a perimeter around the building,
right?
And there's 3 levels of it, so you can be away from people, and it's really not obnoxious. It's actually very pleasant. It's not loud. There's circus lights, and the kids can run around and play on stuff. There's no animatronics. There's no Chuck E. Cheese. I appreciate what you're saying, or what you're trying to get at, but it's not what you're describing. It's a much more pleasant experience.
I think that sincerely, and I'm going to have to take your word for it because I've never been, and I don't have kids, and I don't plan to. So here's another thing I wrote. So I have no idea if the Disney World one is actually better or just more convenient, but I do know kids and their attention spans ability to shift focus and to transition. I suspect, based on this knowledge, that the experience is more jostling and disorienting than it is magical for the kids. For the parents, it's convenience and all that. And I don't think that kids really care about Dumbo. So I think the experience is something along the lines of like the parent says, we're gonna go on Dumbo because all the kids are supposed to go on Dumbo, and if I don't take you on Dumbo, I'm a bad parent.
The kids don't care about Dumbo, but they care about what they saw on TV with that kid playing on Dumbo.
But I don't think that see, that's the other thing. I think we can choose to break this cycle. Yeah, Disney World is going to win this, but I think the conversation that I'm trying to engage in here.
I don't know that that's true.
I think I think we're going to get a lot of angry people if it doesn't. But I think that this is like an inflated value thing, and so I think that the kids don't care about Dumbo. They're doing it for the picture. They're doing it for the parents. So the parents are like, hey, let's go on Dumbo. Kids, what's Dumbo? Parents are like, oh, it's a movie you can never watch because it's depressing. Also, it's right.
That one with Danny DeVito?
Yeah. That's made for kids. That's not made for kids.
That's right. Yeah.
Also, it's a ride that mommy and daddy love very much because our parents did this very same thing to us. So, yay, we're going on Dumbo.
Well, that's true
it's
for
a playground
much of
now.
Disneyland. Much of Disneyland is that way. But I mean, I've got my kids in the other room who've done both. I can ask them if they care about the playground.
I can tell you, I mean, well, yeah, it would be great to ask a child about the playground. Do you want to hear more about the playground?
Asher's passed out from purple stuff, so we can't ask him.
Yeah. Asher's too old anyway.
That's true. And he's too cool for the ride.
There you go.
But he's real.
Yeah.
So
he is.
He is very real. But yeah, in the middle of the 3-ring circus, your toddlers can climb around on things. They can climb into a cartoony car. They can play with little puzzles that they can spin around or move like a thing around a thing. I don't know a good way to describe. There's a knob in a large puzzle and they can slide it through the maze of the thing.
Something similar in the queue of Winnie the Pooh.
At Disney World.
Points,
okay.
A lot of touch points, a lot of like you can like you can
Yeah,
take bees and put them on one of those rod things, they go up and down and around and
it's all very tactile. It's all fun. And then the older kids can climb around things, climb on top of things, go down slides. They can go through they can, like you're saying, Jimmy, climb up higher and go through one of those large rope bridge tunnels that it's suspended, and then they come to the other end and there's a slide that comes back down. It's a lot of stuff that they can do and run around and continue to exert energy without necessarily sweating themselves to death out in the Florida sun.
And
it seems like good stuff.
Tactile, kids having their hands everywhere after the last couple of years is welcome.
It did take a long time for this to open back up.
Lick them clean.
You should see all to move that around. Use your mouth.
You can just lick your way up that slide. You should see all the mommy blogs that were upset that when the park reopened, they didn't have all the play areas open.
Right. Yeah.
Of course.
I read approximately 10 of them.
You should have saved one for the show.
And several of them were not written by AI.
I do want to go back to this idea without trying to make it funny. I do wonder if how does that affect the ride itself? Because I really think that kids and their attention spans are going to be like, hey, playtime, and then it's like, come on, kids, we got to go on this ride that you don't really care about.
That's 100% valid, Dan.
True.
If they want to play for 5 minutes or for 20 minutes and your buzzer goes off after 10, there's an argument to be made for that. I don't think that you're required to get on the ride at that point.
No, you are not.
Wait and then go whenever you decide.
You don't have to. You can still wait in the full line if you want.
That's also true. It's the ultimate interactive queue. And if you told me 2 rides, one was switchbacks, one had interactive elements, that would get a point because there's stuff to do and it's engaging for everyone. And so I'm not going to give it any more points, but I think it's really, really valuable for both parents and children to have this area. You don't have to use it, but it's wonderful to use. And I think any of our listeners, to your point, would hear that and go, that's a no-brainer, right? That's a better experience for everyone. What does it do for the kid? I get you're in education with children, so you think differently than I do,
right?
Because quite frankly, I don't care. I just,
No, I get that. And a lot of parents, and I don't mean this in a negative way, a lot of parents, like, they just kind of want to get through it,
Sure.
but
there's
I
a
can.
time it does get tedious, Dan, as a parent. It's like, okay, time to go. We've had enough of this space.
Right.
But anyway, I don't think we need to talk anymore about it. I think that's a good description, Eric, of what the kids can do. You can charge your phone, you can sit, whatever. It's a better experience from that perspective. Anything else about the queue?
There's a little more queue after you're done.
Yeah, more switchbacks inside, and then you go back outside, and it's still covered. And yeah, okay. So now, if I am in the lightning lane, I don't know if you have this, Eric, but if I'm in the lightning lane, I don't have to wait very long in the queue. Can I go with my child to the play area and then just rejoin the queue?
Anybody can go into the play area.
Okay, so
you can go in the play area even if you don't want to go on the ride.
Oh, that's interesting.
Now, if that's the case, then that helps with my issue, because then it can just be about the thing.
It's one of the like 2 play areas at the Magic Kingdom.
Okay. No, I'm in support of that, because not only is this a way for parents to not spend time with their children, but it's also an extra play area for just anyone. So
sure.
Okay. I'm into that.
All right. So then getting back to the actual ride itself, I suspect it's going to be very similar. And again, we're only talking about one Dumbo ride versus another Dumbo ride, not one versus 2. Okay. That may be unfair, but I just think it's a size thing.
Yeah. Mine was built first, so I'm going to explain the ride.
Yes, please.
So you are assigned a Dumbo. It used to be a free-for-all, but they don't do that anymore. They say, you're going to go to that Dumbo. And the free-for-all experience was really upsetting, because they would just let a bunch of people in, and it's just like, go. I guess I don't get to Dumbo now. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was
just stand against the wall, kid.
It's a mad dash, just like Southwest. Topical humor. Topical humor.
These Dumbos actually fly.
So you spin around a central hub, and you can choose to go up, or you can also choose to go down if you've already gone up.
Another thing that the kids really enjoy is controlling the flight. And that's I think why kids care about Dumbo, the ride, is because they get to.
I don't think they care.
Mine do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. I would assume.
They go on separate Dumbos so they can control the flight.
Oh, okay. I've never been into this ride. If there's like a 5-minute wait and I'm for some reason in Fantasyland, I'll look at it and be like, why not? Let's see what this is. It's not terrible, but whatever. No. But I'll take your word for it. So you can choose to go up, you can choose to go down. It's hard to find a middle spot and stay there. It kind of just wants to go all the way.
Right.
If you're afraid of heights, stay at the bottom. That's a little pro trick. Hey Google, what's French for pro tip? In French, yes. Google is possessed. So that's a
pro tip, by the way.
It's a le pro tip. You can say so. Another pro tip for the teacups. I know a lot of people don't like teacups. If you don't like to spin, you don't have to spin your teacup.
Now, eventually, at the culmination of the ride, everyone goes up, whether you like it or not. So your pro tip is
and you will hear the screams of terror. I don't know that they do, though.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
They do.
Really?
I know they do at the Astro Orbiter, but I think I'm pretty sure on Dumbo they don't do that.
99.99%. They all go up at the end, and then they all come down together.
I don't know, because I'm
in unison.
I'm a weirdo that I like to hover at the bottom because I like the water. I like to just go around with the water feature. It's fun for me. I like boring things. And my experience has always been that, and again, this is just based on memory, that I'll be doing that thing, and then all of a sudden, so everyone comes down. But we can look at the footage. We could look at it.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it just all comes down. I don't know.
I'm watching on YouTube. So, listener, if you want to pause and watch the ride through on YouTube, now's your chance. We'll take a break.
Your attention, please.
The wrongs we must right. The fights we must win. The future we must secure together for our nation. This is what's in front of us. This determines what's next for all of us. We are Marines. We were made for this.
And we're back.
36, 20. No, you have to actually watch it first.
Okay.
No, I'm watching. We can watch it on my TV behind me.
Ooh. There we go. Well, it's hard to tell because this is POV. And they're not showing the Dumbo in front of it.
Let's see.
Hold on. Is that the end? That's the end.
These idiots went all the way over. They went straight to the top and stayed there. That's not how you dump. Okay, now they're going down.
Yeah, you got to go up and
That's the whole-
down.
that's the whole
This
point.
is
The whole point.
Disneyland's, by the way. They're up.
Okay, now they're going back up.
And
Suckers.
they're up. They're up. These guys are just up, but I don't see any other Dumbos. They're showing that one's going up, that one's down.
Yeah, most people go up.
I'm currently in the down position, and the one in front of me is up. And now I'm going up.
Oh, no, you're right. You were right.
All of them go up at the end.
All right.
In your face. That's because I've actually been on this ride.
I've been on this ride too, but normally the kids want to go up. They
Yes.
want to be up. It's my mother who's the one that is not happy about up.
The movie? It's very depressing.
Yeah, it's hard to be happy about up.
And oh, by the way, we're back, and I was correct. They all go up at the end, whether you like it or
That's
not.
the point for Jimmy.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so tell me about the ride. Now, this is where points will be a flying, because this is where we can get into any differences outside of the queue, which we've already covered. And by the way, Dan, I did give you some credit for the queue and the kinetic energy.
I'm on
acknowledge
board.
it.
I'm on board with the play area now. I didn't realize that it was open for poor people as well.
Okay, so poor people who happen to spend the $200 to get
No,
in.
I know. That's a running joke, Jimmy, and I have had for years.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. So, how long is the ride? What is the capacity of the ride? Like, give me some statistics about this thing.
I don't have the length. I think they're probably the same length. Yeah.
I would assume
About 90 seconds.
Is it
Yeah, it's about
arbitrary?
90 seconds. No, it's a set time. I believe it is 90 seconds.
Yeah, I
Let's
timed
see.
out a few different view throughs, and most people say it's about 90 seconds.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's true for both, I would assume.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Average wait time. The capacity for Disneyland is 60 per hour. Disney World's obviously twice as much because there's twice as much. However, in 2021, and this is according to Statistica, the attendance for Magic Kingdom was 12.7 million, and the attendance for Disneyland in 2021 was 8.5 million. So it's almost half. I guess
Okay.
I'm not going to, I mean, look, it's more. And it's like Disneyland has a 67% lower attendance. Basically, it doesn't completely even out. But what I'm trying to say is at Disney World, there's a ton more people, thousands of toddlers, and
all just hovering around this circus.
just hovering, spitting on you.
All right, I've done some independent research. The ride at Disneyland is 1 minute and 30 seconds. The ride at Disney World is 2 minutes. It's a longer ride, more experience for your wait. Magic Kingdom gets a point.
I don't know if I
You don't
watched
accept that point?
Yeah, I don't know if I accept it. I watched it
Okay,
multiple times
fine.
and got 90 seconds.
All right, let's 90 seconds there, about the same, no points awarded. Google has been wrong in the past. Okay, so as far as what I was asking, Dan, there's a capacity 60 an hour, can't be right.
600.
Because 600. I thought you said 60. 600 per hour. How many elephants are there?
16.
16, and you can fit 2 or 3 people in each elephant. Is that correct? Or are they
one very large
two-seat?
person, of which
2
I currently
rows?
am.
So
Not 2 rows.
1 row, 2. Okay, so 1 row,
One row.
16, capacity 600. Okay, Eric, same question.
Yeah, same answer.
Okay, 16
I mean,
elephants.
other than there are 32, there are 2
Well, no,
rides
we're not
at Walt
counting
Disney
that.
World.
I apologize if it's unfair for you or the listener that I'm not counting the double capacity because the wait I'm not counting that.
The wait times tend to be about the same.
They're the same.
That's okay. That's
average is like 30 minutes
that's
at the peak.
And that's allowing for your basically half the people went to Disneyland than to Disney World, so you're accommodating twice the people. So I don't think personally it's fair because they can do that because they have the space. So I'm just arguing one carousel versus another. So the capacities are the same. Right? Sounds like 16 cars.
It's essentially, yeah.
Why am I remembering 2 rows in
That's another
Magic
ride.
Kingdom?
Are you thinking the carpets? Are you thinking?
I'm thinking of the
Triceratops
dinosaurs. Yes, I'm thinking of Triceratops.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So they're effectively the same ride. The only discerning factor is this queue. What else?
You can see Fantasyland and see the bands.
Well, I mean, you can see the Fantasyland.
How is yours decorated, Dan?
What?
Because I can talk about Walt Disney World's decor.
No. Did they over Imagineer this?
They didn't over Imagineer this. No, they over Imagineered the land, but we'll save that for the land discussion someday. I'm talking about, so you've got your Timothy Mouse in the middle. We've got at Walt Disney World four on each. So picture just one of the rides. It's the same for both. 4 golden storks with bundles flying on top instead of Timothy Mouse.
Wait, what? Say that again.
So the whole thing is blue and red with gold trim everywhere, and on top in the center of the hub there are 4 storks in gold with little bundles of joy for you. They're bringing you their seed.
Well, I mean, you can go back in several minutes and figure out the whole process. That's stupid because
it's a big part of the movie.
It's the first part of the movie. It's an entry point into the main story.
Okay,
it is not just
underneath. Just underneath the next layer down, golden trunks are holding feathers.
Jimmy, your connection is really bad.
Wow,
and
that's really hard to see, Jimmy.
Sorry.
Just underneath.
I'm showing an image of the Disneyland one with a stork at every elephant arm.
Yeah, we have storks. We have storks and we have Timothy.
Yeah,
right.
But keep going.
The storks are there as
golden red trim, by the way, too.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying at Disneyland, the storks are given like very lower tier. Yeah, there's more of them, but they're not like any sort of, it's more like hey, and look, they also have the storks because that was also in the movie, but these are the 2 main characters. Where at Disney World, Dumbo is flying without his magic feather. Timothy is all alone, welcoming a bunch of strangers into this weird Chuck E. Cheese like environment that I agree is more convenient.
They're very similar, these 2 rides.
They are. There's a little more blue in the Disney World one, but
true.
I have to say that the description of Disney World one, all the elephants have a different colored blanket on their back that you're sitting on, and that matches the hat they're wearing. It is red and gold with blue trim and everything that Eric just described. There's D,
and there's more.
And there's more. There's a D. There's 4 Ds for Dumbo around the perimeter of the carousel. You've got the water feature.
I forgot.
You've got Dumbo's mother. You've got a bust of Dumbo's mother. 4 of them.
This very sad character that dies of heartbreak. There's
influential character who didn't die.
She did eventually. I mean,
it's not her bust. It's just her head on a pike.
Ew.
No, I'm joking. It's like her head, like Max Buff and Melvin, her head,
which is what a bust is.
So it's like a tribute to his.
Was the whole like chest up.
Oh, I guess I can see what you're saying. Perhaps,
so it's like a tribute to his sad, depressed mother that he can't experience
who accepted
the love
the stork. and thus gave birth to the boy.
Are you saying that the entire extremely sad story of Dumbo was all Jumbo's fault? That is shaming of a kind I'm not going to say.
And then on the bottom, they have scenes from the movie, kind of like you have on the carousels at both parks.
Right, because kids love that movie.
Kids love that movie.
At Disneyland, they have different colored hats and different colored blankets. I forgot what it was like to do one of these episodes, and
does your fountain light up at night, Dan?
Ooh,
sure. Yeah, it lights up.
Does it have different colors? Do the colors change, Dan? Do the colors change,
Dumbo,
Dan?
At night.
Okay, so what I'll say is,
so why not?
Disneyland's has a stork for every arm, and it appears that the stork arm goes up and down with the arm of the elephant. So if you look left, you are flying with the stork at all times. I like that better. Point Disneyland.
Because it's a major character, and now that you've given it a point, I agree. The stork is important.
What it does is it feels more kinetic for me as a rider.
Yeah.
And then the fountains at Disneyland are not. I like how the fountains at Disney World. Wait a minute, is this land? This is World. No, this is land.
They're very similar.
They are. They're the same. Never mind.
Are they?
The end.
They are very similar.
Yeah, they spray out like a jet, almost like a water screen, if you will.
Yeah.
But do they light up at night?
I see lights in the basin of the thing. They light up.
Okay. Do you have scenes from everyone's favorite movie?
Oh, geez,
Dumbo.
No, because it's not actually everyone's favorite movie. No one cares about this movie.
You see more. There are more gears, but there are less Dumbo things on the hub.
Oh no, I see what you're saying. No, there's triangles.
Yeah, they just have more red and blue.
I think thematically, Disneyland doesn't pretend that you care about Dumbo. And that's kind of nice because it's just like, hey, here's this thing that everyone goes on because it's a popular ride. Here it is.
Oh, I see those scenes instead of the triangles. I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I just don't care. All right. So where
and
are
it just
come on.
And at Disney World, it's like it's that same thing where it's like we're gonna over Imagineer this thing where it's just like, okay, here's a vast area dedicated to this character you kind of like.
Okay. How
about the land?
Yeah,
are we moving on to the land?
So the impact of the land at Disneyland.
It's minimal because that's how it should be. It's got the band organ, which provides music for all to enjoy in all the land. I don't want to necessarily double up points, but that does in fact impact the land because I can hear it when I'm not in line. It does. Right? It impacts the land. So it becomes the central thing. It's again, you don't have a Casey. I already got the point for it, but you don't have a Casey Jr. without Dumbo, or you would. There's no reason to have one. Land impact, it's got a nice water feature for the land, but so does Disney World. Yeah. It's just kind of it just does its job and gets out of the way. Okay. Eric, same question.
Is it out of the way in Disneyland? I should tell you about mine before we get combative here.
No. I don't mean out of the way physically. I mean, like thematically, it's just like, okay, here's the ride. You want to go on it. That's fine. But we don't need to make a bigger deal out of this than it needs to be.
Okay.
It's modest.
All right. Disney World has an entire land that exists because of Dumbo. Storybook Circus is themed to Dumbo. The entire point is that Casey Jr. has rolled into Fantasyland and he brought the entire circus with him. There's the water play area right outside the restrooms. That's right outside the ride. And everything in that area is themed to Dumbo. It's themed to the 1930s. It's colorful. It's quote fun. I
hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about that Casey Jr. brought the circus because it's very makeshift, right? It doesn't feel permanent. They're big tops.
everything there is circus themed. The shop there is a big tent.
And he brought all of his circus friends that you know from the movie, like Pete and Goofy and Minnie Mouse.
And all the cast members are wearing costumes that make them look like
that's right,
like circus workers. Folk. And Dumbo inspired the entire land. As you walk in to the land, you see circus style posters for Dumbo and all of the other things that are going on there. The pavement has peanut shells embedded in it. It has
that's cool.
It has animal footprints. It has.
He said peanut.
I know. My brain said something else.
Oh no! And leading up to Dumbo in particular, there are elephant tracks.
I get
the
it.
The entire land is Dumbo, without these spiked water barrels or animal cruelty or problematic crows.
Of course, naturally.
Does Dumbo need an entire land? Does the movie from the 40s that nobody cares about or watches anymore?
It's a major Disney property.
A lot of things. Does this need to exist? There's all kinds of that.
It saved the Disney studio.
It's an important film for Disney. Whether kids care or not is irrelevant. Do they care about pirates? Do they care? Who knows? The point is it's there. And I believe the score up to this point is tied.
Correct. You said points were going to fly, and they have not flown yet.
Have not flown yet because they're exactly the same. So this is going to put it over the top.
Oh, wait. On the backs, I forgot this point. This item on the back side of the Dumbo sign in the queue. Mm-hmm. The backside reads, "Believe and soar."
Oh. Okay, well, you probably should have stopped talking there.
No. No, but Jimmy doesn't like to believe or soar.
The thing is that, as far as land impact goes, it's a part of the land at Disneyland. It is the land at Disney World, and therefore it is supreme.
Oh,
at Disney World?
At Disney World. That put it over the top.
I would like to offer you a drink, but...
Yes, very well argued both. I didn't know, again, going in, I knew that there was a covered queue or whatever. I don't give this ride any thought. I don't really care. I know a lot of people love it. Parents with children need to take their kids, to Dan's earlier point. They need to ride it because it's a rite of passage. They have to go up and down just like Autopia. Shouldn't exist.
Hold on. I'm not saying they need to ride. I'm saying they don't.
Well, I'm saying as a parent, right? It's a rite of passage. The same reason Autopia exists, because kids want to ride a car before they're 16. It's all that sort of thing. And so I think you both argued well. I think that Dan, just in retrospect, Disneyland got more points than I think I thought it would. I didn't know how many points anything was going to get. And again, I hadn't thought about it. So you guys both did a very good job at pointing it out. I hadn't even considered the land impact, but reasoned, well argued. And in this case, Dumbo at Magic Kingdom is the supreme Dumbo.
I would like to offer you a drink, but...
And I accept that, but I do have a statement that I want to.
Okay,
and
closing statements.
I wrote this again at that same time at night. Let's see. I know I don't care. So, in closing, break the cycle. Dumbo the movie is good but super depressing. You should watch it. And the crow thing is a thing. The ride isn't that good. If there's no wait, it can be pretty fun, but it's a ride you can go on at any fair. Sure, it's not Dumbo, but kids don't care about Dumbo. Stop insisting that this ride is important and it will reach its actual market value. It deserves to stay. It's not bad. It's just good. It's kind of the first Paradise Pier ride. Instead, make riding the Mark Twain a priority. Get kids excited about that ride. It never has a long wait. The capacity is huge. It's an example of what Disney parks are especially good at doing. And it might even get your kid interested in reading. Tell them Mark Twain was like Stan Lee, because he kind of was. They'll love it. And if they don't, throw them in the rivers of America.
They can stand up. That's also a very well reasoned argument, Dan. Get
very
people
true.
Interested in Mark Twain. Have we done Mark Twain versus the Columbia or the other one?
No,
I don't think we have.
The Dick Irvine. No,
it's the River Bell or something Bell. I don't know.
So that's right. It is the. Oh gosh, yeah.
Is it just the episode? Lily Bell?
No,
I think it is.
Maybe it might be the Lily Bell, but that's
maybe
the
it is now.
Car also, we'll find out. Past show corrections. I'd like to read some
future show corrections.
Useful trivia from the movie Dumbo. Number one, the most interesting. This was Walt Disney's favorite film, like you said, Dan. Next to next year's Bambi from 1941, from 1942, which is his favorite, made by his studio. That is grammatically exactly what I read, and that's how it's written. Initially, Walt Disney was uninterested in making this movie. To get him interested, storymen Joe Grant and Dick Huemer wrote up the film, wrote up the film as installments, which they left on Walt Disney's desk every morning. Finally, he ran into the story department saying, "This is great. What happens next?" That was 178 people found that interesting. Finally, there is some controversy about the crows of the film, who are meant to represent African Americans, at least entertainers of that time. While the association of African Americans and crows, both black, predates the film, there are film historians like Richard Schickel who pointed it out first as offensive and or racist. There are those who find their portrayal positive and progressive. Most of the crows were voiced by African-American actors and portrayed in live action during the animation process.
Yes, so Ben Shapiro famously said they're very progressive.
Yeah, African-American actors are and portrayed in live action during the animation process by African-American dancers in an era which there was limited casting potential for them. And the crows are actually among the few friendly and intelligent characters in the film, and also free-spirited. There you go. 158 out of 163 found this interesting.
Liberty Bell. Liberty Bell.
There we go.
Future show. Yes. Liberty Bell versus the Tom something. No, the
Selleck. The Tom Selleck.
The Tom Selleck.
They would have to figure out the Columbia problem.
Just blow it up. Oh, you mean for the show? I don't know. I don't know why I hate that ride so much.
I don't know either. But
Dumbo gets 17 feet off the ground.
Oh, I'm going to say it's true for both and move on. All right, good job, guys. So Dumbo at Magic Kingdom is the Supreme Dumbo. Talked about the new show on the network, the things. Then,
anything going on for Concierge?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, yes.
Okay.
The end.
856 our ears.
Yeah, I had something to say, but I forgot. I just wrote note concierge. Eric, do you want to give us anything?
Concierge, come to our site and sign up to get our newsletter. We've kind of re-kicked that off. That's going to be a more frequent thing now. We're putting a lot of effort into that. And we continue to wait on hold so that you don't have to, which is one of Dan's favorite
That's a
items.
Good point. Yeah. So again, we've said it before, but it doesn't matter if you book all the time or do, you know how to do this in your sleep. Reach out to one of us and we'll help you do it. It just takes the guesswork out of it. A lot of people are coming still complex now more than it used to be. I get a lot of, I used to go to the parks all the time until 2020. Now I'm confused. Can you help me?
We should probably actually, wouldn't be a bad idea at some point for us to do an episode or maybe just a standalone thing that we could put on Jason's Patreon or something. Basically like, hey, so if you haven't been for a while, these are things you should know.
Yeah, a blog. I'm sure there is one on concierge.com. What's also interesting is that many of the concierges, with me being an exception, write blogs and are articles for Attractions Magazine?
No, the magazine is called
Celebrations magazine. And one of our concierges wrote an article and got a client because they read the article and they're like, hey, they're one of those people. It's like, it's confusing now. I used to be an expert at it. Can you book it for me? Oh, and by the way, can you do flights? Can you just magically make this happen for me? And the answer is yes. We can book your flights. We can book your airport transfers, dining reservations, you name it. It all does not cost you anything. And it's so much easier just to tell somebody, here's my credit card, go do this for me. And it sort of it brings more magic because you're not having to deal with how the sausage is made. So 856 Our Ears, concierge.com. A lot of fun blog posts, a lot of information you can get there. A lot of different concierges write different blog posts about different things. So there's a lot of content. You listen to this podcast, you like Disney parks, go check it out. Other shows beyond Puny Pod and the Supreme Resort, Scraping the Vault, coming back for a new year. Dealer's Choice is in full swing, and we will be watching Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
That's right.
That will be released sometime in January. Ears Up in Depth, Bantha Milk podcast, Puny Pod. Anyway, look for us on many of those other shows. And then Eric has 14 other shows that he's on. That's starting with The Hub Crawl, something about dining with his wife, and many more.
Eric,
we don't do that one.
Do you know what Marvel movie you're going to be on Beauty Pod for, or what?
No, I initially said that I would do Dark World, but when you were adamant about doing Dark World,
you can
put me down for anything.
I mean, you can. I have a weird appreciation for that movie.
Are they starting from Iron Man, or how's this working?
They're not going in chronologic order now.
Okay,
they're going in alphabetical order. Just
what are they going to start with?
I forgot the Billy Joel. No.
Also,
a minute of trust. Matter
trust. Also, don't forget, write into the Walt Disney Company. It's Bob Iger at gmail.com.
Yes.
And let him know that you want to see the Bambi shooting gallery installed at all of the parks.
While you're there, tell them to promote this podcast. All right. So thank you. Good job, guys. In the meantime, so coming up, we have Jack Plotnick coming up. We have Carly Wiesel coming up. We have a new bracket to do with the Hall of Presidents in some form or another, which we will reveal later.
It's going to be glorious.
It's going to be
oh no.
So thanks for listening. Listen to some of the other podcasts, 856 Our Ears. Be good to each other, and we'll see you next time. I meant to close out with, I'm going to City Walk.
Okay, we're officially recording. Do we want to start this as
Eric,
a
sorry,
thing?
I'm sorry, Eric. How's my
Yes.
game?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, your gain is everywhere you want to be, Gumbo.
Okay, thank you.
By the way, I noticed the text that I sent you guys yesterday to confirm. It was either yesterday or this morning, but I could see how it could be misinterpreted because it said, what did it say? It said, good morning. No, wait, that wasn't it.
Nope.
So, hold on. Where is it? I said, so Dumbos. And I could see how it could be misinterpreted.
As you calling us Dumbos?
Yeah.
No.
So, Dumbos.
Hooray.
Okay.
So,
Cue sound.
Dumbos.
Stop. What'd you call me?
Use all the swears now.
Supreme.